Don't forget your cheese twists, honey. Don't forget your cheese twists. Okay, there you go. Use two hands. Be careful. Okay.
Alexa, it feels completely appropriate that we are negotiating cheese twists and third birthdays at the
Yep.
beginning of our conversation. That feels
Yeah, and I have my daughter. She's two. She's taking a nap. She has one nap, and we started potty training her on Saturday. So it's just, and then she caught a cold, and now I caught her cold. So it's just been, you know, fun day,
You're
fun few days.
demonstrating your incredible resilience and multitasking ability
Yes,
so
yes,
beautifully. Well, Alexa, thank you for meeting with me today and talking through your incredible report, the Maternal Strengths Report 2026,
yeah.
which you published when? Last week?
Yes, June 1st had several 100,000 people view the report. It actually crashed my website on the
Wow.
first day that we launched it. And so I had to kind of scramble. But yeah, it's been amazing. And I've had hundreds of women DM me and message me about how validating it feels
Mm.
to have data that just proves what we know. We know how strong we are. And it's like,
Yeah.
yes, there's finally data that shows it. And so it also feels very validating to me. That was important. So it's been a really phenomenal response.
That's incredible. Hundreds of thousands of views. I mean, not incredible. It was such an exciting report to anticipate. I was on your waiting list for ages, and then it
Yeah.
came into my inbox. I was like, yes, today's the day. I think I like whooped and sort of pumped the air 100 times reading it. I
Yeah.
really felt so excited because, as you say, it was it wasn't that it was new, although there was things that are surprising in your report that I want to come to in a second. It
Mm-hmm.
was that it validated it, sort of it showed that you were really paying attention to something that we know intuitively, but we haven't had the evidence to prove and therefore
Mm-hmm.
advocate for until this moment. So thank you.
Yeah.
You've done something really
Yeah.
important. So
Thank
I
you.
wonder if you could tell me then a little bit about what you've researched and what the main findings have been. Why don't you summarize if you can for those who haven't yet read it?
Yeah, so we quantified how motherhood impacts your leadership skills. So your time management, your negotiation, communication, crisis management, prioritization, resource allocation, empathy, resilience, team building, trust building. And we did a pre and post, pre-post survey method. So before motherhood and then now that you're a mother kind of survey methods. And yeah, we found that motherhood increased every single leadership skill that we measured, all 12. Not
Mm.
not some of them, not the majority, but every single one. And the largest increases were in the operational leadership skills. So time management increased 123%. That's
Wow.
more than double,
Hmm.
more than double. And then resource or energy allocation was 100% increase. That's double as good at that after becoming mothers. Negotiation increased 83%. Communication, crisis management. These are hard, tangible leadership skills that companies say that you must have to be a good manager or leader. And these are moms all reporting having had the largest increases in these. And so that was like the biggest, like most shocking finding for me, especially was like how big those increases were too.
Yeah, sure. Was there anything else surprising in the report? You, I think, say, I'm surprised though about which of the skills shift most dramatically. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think in culturally in a society we kind of assume mothers are more empathetic, they're more emotionally and more emotionally intelligent. So I expected those skills, resilience, empathy, team building, to
Mhm.
increase the most, because that was more emotion driven, and those did increase but not the most. It was those operational leadership skills that increased the most. And
Mm.
so it was kind of this aha moment of like, oh, we're even stronger than we realize. But once we actually pull the data out,
Mhm.
we like build that awareness of, oh my God, I have been excelling at time management way more than I even thought I was. And oh my God, you're right. I do negotiate all day before I even get to work and then all evening. I am way better at it than I realize. And so I think it's also that awareness and recognition that we don't even know how good we are at it until we kind of see it.
That is so rewarding for you, I'm sure, just to see
Yeah.
those particular leaps. I think in the UK particularly, but I think it's growing elsewhere, obviously, since the publication of a book called Matrescence by Lucy Jones
Hmm.
that came out, I don't know which year, but maybe 3 years ago. And it really blew wide open this question of how little recognition there is of what change happens in a woman when they become a mother. And we're not just talking,
Hmm.
you're talking about particular leadership skills, but more broadly, a skill set that's highly transferable and really valuable to employers. But there's so much else that's going on. There's the physical changes, there's the changes that I witness in my coaching spaces where people are talking about changes in purpose and changes in sense of drive and meaning. It all changes, everything shifts.
Hmm.
And yet when women are returning to work, it's almost like nothing has happened. And that
Yeah.
employers are expecting women just to re-enter into their roles, if indeed their role still exists, which is a whole other problem.
Yeah.
And to be able to manage their working lives in exactly the same way. So I wonder what you feel are the main implications of your findings, because we can talk about in a moment. I'd love to explore some of the more granular details about how organizations could benefit from what you've learned. But what do you think are the kind of headline implications for finding out that we are bigger, better, more capable than we ever realized as mothers?
Yeah, I think it's that the way we proverbial we as a society view motherhood needs to shift.
Yeah.
And then we can get into the more granular, like what companies can do. But it's that the way we talk about motherhood, the way we think about it should be like this massive evolution of matrescence that we're going through, but also of the skill and strength building and development that we go through. And we need to be talking about it as an advantage, as a strength building transition and experience. And
Mm-hmm.
then that way, people start to think of it as such because when you come back, you're like, oh, I'm not going on maternity leave. I'm going through this massive evolution. So when I
Yeah.
come back from maternity leave, it needs to be a supported transition because there's going to be, when you're in the middle of transition, it's always going to be a little rough until you kind of find your footing again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And especially depending on how long your maternity leave is, right? If you've got 3 months versus if you have a year, it's two very different things. Um,
Yes.
but I think the first thing that needs to happen is just the way how motherhood is perceived.
Mm-hmm.
And the way we talk about it as moms ourselves is
Yeah.
going to ripple elsewhere because no one else is, a man's not going to think about it as a strength building leadership development experience. We don't talk about it like that ourselves either. So it
Yeah.
starts with how we think of it, how we perceive it to be as well.
Okay, yes, I agree. I think talking about motherhood and making it the norm to discuss motherhood as a particular state that is worth
Mm-hmm.
recognizing and championing and celebrating. We just don't do that culturally. We don't do it, and we
Yeah,
haven't done it for a very long time. I won't start talking about the patriarchy at this point, but there's a
I
lot
know.
we could, I'm sure. But
Yes.
there's a lot that is suppressed in terms of a
Uh-huh.
societal recognition of how valuable that transition is. So I wonder, like, how do we do that? How do we have those conversations about the value of motherhood more broadly, do you think? Like, where would those conversations happen, do you think?
I think it starts with the leaders at the top,
Okay.
right? And because everything else ripples down. So if you see a leader, and I think this was, Emma Greed, I don't know if I'm saying her last
Yes.
name right. She started talking about, like it kind of blew back up in her face and kind of went viral about the 3 hour work week and
Yeah.
or 3 hour day with her kids, and then remote work is career suicide for
Yeah.
women. And to me, it's just disappointing seeing a woman, a leader at the top because
Mm.
she's in a position of power to set an example. And
Yeah.
she's instead choosing to uphold the outdated models of workplaces that were built around a model that we don't have, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, the way leaders at the top talk about motherhood ripples downwards. If you have a CEO or a executive mom and she's talking all about how strong she is as a working mom, that's going to signal to the other lower employees that, oh, it's safe to talk about it too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm also a strong working mom. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm also great at negotiations. I do with my toddler all morning before I even get to work. Right. So I think it has to start at the top. If you are in a position of power, when you set that example, you make it safer for other people to start doing that as well.
Okay, and
Exactly.
on that point, I'd love turn to kind of a bit of backstory about what led you to explore and investigate maternal strength. Um, and then I'd love to talk about like how organizations can learn from what you've been
Yeah.
researching. So what led you to where you are now,
Yes.
including your own children, who I can hear in the background?
I know he's amazed that there's a really big train on TV. Yeah. So in January of this year, we put out the Future of Working Motherhood report, and that looked at how moms were supported or unsupported, for that matter, in the workplace, and especially that return to work transition time.
Mm-hmm.
And of some of the findings, we found that less than a third had any sort of transition plan back to work after maternity leave. Only a third felt comfortable talking to their manager asking for support.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest statistic that stood out was that 97% of the working moms reported that they felt that they were a better leader after becoming a mom.
Mm.
And so I was like, that's almost every person who took this. Like, that's a lot. That's a really shockingly high number. And so
Yeah.
after that report came out, and it was also a phenomenal response to it, I was sitting here like, what do I research next?
Mm-hmm.
And, there's tons of reports about how many women are exiting the workforce and the career loss and the motherhood penalty and the overall like salary loss long term, to your career if you become a mom. And I was like, but no one's ever talking about what we gain from motherhood and how
Yes.
strong we are. And so I was like, I want to measure that. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be, especially if every mom's feeling like she's a better leader, let's quantify it.
Right.
Does motherhood like make you a better leader? Does it impact your leadership skills? And so that's kind of was the birth of this maternal strength report. Was I wanted to do something different than all the other reports out there and some new data that I didn't see elsewhere.
So, and I'm interested because it coincided you producing these reports with having very young children of your own, 3 and 2 years old. So, what was
Yeah.
it about your own motherhood that prompted you to want to explore that and advocate for mothers more deliberately?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm in my powerhouse strong era moment. Like I feel like sure I'm, sick with my daughter's cold,
Yeah.
but there is nothing that I can't do
Mm.
because after giving birth, there's, and surviving newborn sleep deprivation and breastfeeding and chapped nipples, like there's nothing I can't do.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can't do for my children. There's nothing I can't do to build a legacy and support my family. And so for me, I just felt like I feel like I'm crazy strong and
Mm.
crazy ambitious. And I speak to so many other women and moms who also feel that they are very ambitious after becoming moms and they're also in this like young toddler phase. And so that kind of also fueled this like, are we all feeling really strong? Like, is this
Mm.
common that we all are like, does anyone else notice this? So strong we are and capable?
Yeah. That was what I was witnessing with women coming into coaching. Motherhood had given them this incredible surge of confidence and
Mm-hmm.
capability. And And yet, when they were re-entering or negotiating systems really not designed for them, it was that was causing this depression in their confidence. It was like, oh, I'm incredible, but oh, I've got to go back into this world that actually doesn't work for me. So I wonder if we can
Mm-hmm.
just explore briefly some of the
Yeah.
ways that you recommend organizations start to pay attention to and start interrogating and even changing some of the systems where it's hard for women to retain that confidence and bring that incredible confidence and power into their working lives. What do you recommend organizations do differently?
Yeah, so I think there's two big things. And the first
Mm.
starts at that transition back to work. So I don't know how long is maternity leave in the UK? A
I mean,
year,
I think we
8 months?
have a statutory 9 months, but some people
Okay.
take 6 to 12 months depending on their circumstances.
Okay. So let's say, whether you're in the US, maybe you get 3 months,
Yeah.
maybe eight, right? I had 3 months, but when you're going back to work, that's a hard transition. You're going from 100% full-time mom,
Yeah.
24/7. Maybe you're still sleep deprived. Maybe you're still breastfeeding or pumping or figuring out, maybe you have to leave your kid for the first time at daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And then even at 6 months, you still have a baby. Like that baby's still a baby. And
Yeah.
you're still postpartum and hormones and emotions. And so when you now have to add back in a full 8-hour day of work, to
Yeah.
this mix, it's a huge transition. And so the first thing is supporting that transition. And it's
Yeah.
super simple. Like,
Yeah.
talk about open communication with your manager, create a roadmap so that you have like a re-onboarding, you can transition back slowly. Some
Yeah.
women want to hit the ground running. Some women are like, I need, a couple weeks to get my footing and have
Yeah.
conversations, see where projects are, maybe
Hmm.
start to take back over 50% of my work for the first few weeks and then,
Hmm.
a little bit more work. Some women
Yeah.
are like, I want it all, right? It's
Yeah.
so it's you have to have those open conversations with your manager.
Hmm.
And some women, if you can negotiate, I want to work remotely for the first month or hybrid, or I want to come back part-time.
Yeah.
Those are all conversations that, need to happen to make that transition time easier. So that
Hmm.
I think is the first part of it that needs to happen. But the second part is providing opportunities for these moms to flex those new skills, because
Yeah.
this will directly contrast the motherhood penalty of being sidelined for promotions, or
Mhm.
someone just deciding, oh, she's not going to want that work, I'm just not going to give it to her, right? And you get
Yeah.
a manager who's going to decide for her, like, oh, she's a
Mm.
mom, she doesn't want that, so I'm going to just pass it over to someone else. And so
Exactly.
you
And that
get
that happens a lot. That happens a
a
lot.
lot,
Yeah.
a lot. And so you get a lot of women who don't get those visibility opportunities
Hmm.
and start to get sidelined from projects and from promotions. And so if it were a man who went and got his MBA, let's say, comes back and he's now got his MBA, they'd be like, okay, let's give you this project. Use your new MBA skills.
Yeah.
That's the same kind of thinking that needs to happen of like, okay,
Mm.
hey, Sarah, you just got back. Let's talk about, what are you passionate about? What do you want to, is there a stretch project that you want to do? Is there is there something that you're ambitious about that you want to try, take over and test out, like that, those kind of conversations. Maybe that's part of a career conversation, but giving her opportunities to flex those new skills is going to be really important.
I just love this idea. Right, mother, come on, show
Yeah.
us what you can do now. I love that idea. Like, how would you recommend organizations think critically, not just about what women are capable of, but what the innovations could be, what the changes need to look like to enable women to continue to progress? Because that progression, in my experience in the last 10 years that I've been working in this space, this return to work period, it's going to look different. It's going to look different to what's on offer. And my favorite question when I work with clients is, what would you like it to look like so that it was working
Mm-hmm.
really well? What would it look like if it was working really well for you as a parent? And so we dream it up and they go, oh, it doesn't feel possible. And you go, okay, let's ask for that. Let's work out what it would
Yeah.
actually involve to have a job share, to work part-time, to have that bit of training that isn't available to you because it's your regular day off. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
how would it look if your progression and your profession was working well for you? And then we start exploring what you then need to ask for. And women tend to, when they are equipped and informed about what to ask for, they ask for it. And hey, presto, it happens. So I'm wondering,
Mm-hmm.
what do you recommend organizations do to start imagining or reimagining what leadership looks like for women, what leadership looks like for people who know how to care for other people? What would you recommend that they do on that front?
I think it's really shaking off this outdated model of always on, fastest to respond, being able to work late or work early, right? That's such an outdated model, but a lot of companies just still cling on to it because
Wow.
that's what other companies are doing and that's what they've been doing. And
Yeah.
so they're not shifting
Mm.
to more caregiving that's happening in the world, especially as you have more parents taking care of their parents and now
Mhm.
their children. So you get this sandwich caregiving.
Yeah.
And so it's really comes down to, do you care about your employees?
Mm.
And then if companies are always bottom line, revenue, do you care about your revenue and your business growth?
Yeah.
Because data shows when you invest in your employees, they're more productive, they're more efficient, they're more loyal. And so to me, it's almost a no-brainer, a common sense to care about people. And so
Mhm.
I always get tripped up at this question because whenever I hear a company that's like, oh, we're actually going to pull back on, our leadership development programs, oh, or we're not going to like invest in our employees. I'm like, oh, you are truly scum. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I don't
in
want
the
to go anywhere.
nicest terms.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think your final statement of your report is, and I've got it in front of me, the future of leadership may depend on whether workplaces are willing to recognize that motherhood and leadership development exist, not in opposition to one another.
mhm.
Like that's such a powerful statement. We have to reimagine how organizations work so that everybody can be economically successful. That's the nature of life
Yep.
today. So the future of leadership specifically depends on this, on challenging this outdated notion that motherhood and leadership can't coexist. That's
Yeah,
quite
absolutely.
powerful.
And as an entrepreneur, I found that, pivoting and being able to adapt
Mm,
is the key to keeping your business growing, right? So many small businesses fail because they are stuck in the first thought of this is how I'm going to run my business.
mm,
And so when that's not working, they just give up rather than pivot,
yeah,
right? And so I feel like that's almost a lot of businesses get so big and get so stuck in how they've always done something that they're like, we can't change though, or we
yeah,
won't change. And it's like, but everything else is adjusted, right?
yeah,
And modern workforce requires a modern touch to leadership and
yeah.
understanding. And so, yeah, it just got to get with the times, man.
Yeah, you gotta get with the times, baby. I'm interested though, like to what degree this conversation, our conversation about how to support women and enable them in the workplace, and for organizations to recognize the value of women and those that care, how far and to what degree we need to be talking to men and to those without caregiving responsibilities, so that we can build the wider picture. I mean, you and I can talk to each other forever, and I'm sure there are lots of women who would be interested in our conversation too.
Yeah.
Where are the men? How do we engage with them? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, this is tough because um, men are 50% of the population, right? Or it's
Yeah,
fairly evenly split. And so a lot of this is going to come down to the other dads and the other male caregivers
mm,
also speaking up because that's even less common
yeah,
than the moms speaking up is the dads talking about, oh, I'm sleep deprived because my baby was also up. And so we were all up,
mhm,
right? Like,
yeah,
but he wasn't then going to work and saying, oh, yeah, the baby was up all night. And so, please bear with me. And can we push a meeting to next week or something? Or let's see if
yeah,
we can delegate something to someone else, right? And so those are the conversations that also need to happen. It's the dads who are aware of how hard, especially that postpartum time is.
yeah,
We need them to also speak up.
yeah,
Um, and then the second thing is, men speak the language of data and numbers and facts. And
okay,
so not as much emotions and us being like, I'm a great mom, I want support. Is like I could scream that until like I run out of oxygen. and
yeah,
and it's not gonna resonate as much with the men in the positions of power as the data and the hard facts. And that's
yeah,
why I like doing these reports so that we can show these hard numbers of, oh, women believe that they are 123% better at time management and negotiation and et cetera, et cetera, so that they can see, oh, if one of our male employees went and got an MBA and suddenly had these same metrics of improvement and skills,
yeah.
they'd probably be promoted, right?
Funny that,
And
right?
so it's providing that data, the facts to show, oh, motherhood is actually an advantage for our employees. Now we should maybe think about it that way. And
Sure.
so I think it's both of those to kind of get men more involved.
And it doesn't feel divisive. It feels that they are very compatible conversations about
Yes.
dads and how to support dads and how to support mums. And in fact, in order to support anyone, they both need to be happening simultaneously. So bring it on.
Mm-hmm.
Alexa,
Yes.
I'm going to bring our conversation to a close, but I just wondered if there's anything else you'd like to share about the report, or anything that would encourage somebody to head to your website, Mothered Media, so that you can so they can read it.
Oh yeah, they could go see it at motheredmedia.com. Other than that, I think if you are in the middle of, early postpartum, it may not be as clear to recognize these skills if you're, sleep deprived
Yeah.
and, awake all night but just know that that's forging all of
Yes.
these strengths, right? You have to get through all of those early moments to build the resilience and the adaptability and be like, oh, fuck yeah, I could survive all that and
Yeah.
become this strong, capable, powerful woman.
Yeah.
And so if you're in the middle of it, hang in there. You're,
Yes.
what is
Situation.
it? Diamonds are forged through the pressure and right. So you're becoming a diamond. So hang in
Yes.
there. But I would, if you are a mom, I would just say take some time to reflect on how capable and strong you are
Mm,
because you are immeasurably strong. And I know I'm also a mom, there's nothing you won't do for your children.
sure.
That's infinite strength right there that you can translate to the workplace.
Yeah, 100%. And lots of other places too. Alexa, thank you so much for joining me today, but also for your incredible report, which honestly, I don't know, this needs the widest coverage it can possibly get because it's such important work. But I'm so grateful to you for
Thank
both.
you.
And I'm looking forward to speaking again in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Alice, for having me.
My pleasure.